Hey guys, hope you're all doing great. I'm Ethan, and today we're diving into another set of wild Reddit stories. If you enjoy these deep dives, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next one. All right, fellas, let's jump right in. First story coming up. Much love, boys.
The alert came while I was checking the chlorine logs at the pool. Fraud alert, it said, tapping the top of my screen like a finger on my shoulder. Then it opened to the bank app and showed a pending charge for a suite at a South Beach hotel I had never heard of. $2,400. I stared until the numbers stopped meaning money and turned into a pressure in my chest. The worst part was that I already knew why. I knew because 2 days earlier I'd seen a guest list in our shared group chat, and it had a name in it that did not belong anywhere near my future wife's bachelorette weekend. I didn't snoop. It was on the kitchen iPad, open and lit when I reached for it to check my schedule at the gym. A bright pink Canva graphic, Miami Bachelorette with flamingos and glitter crowns, and a list beneath that started with her bridesmaids' handles and ended with Special Assist, Jason. Jason. My stomach did the same small drop it does on the first hill of a roller coaster. The name didn't need a last name. In my head, he was already italicized. Her ex. The one from the last year of her 20s, the one who could host a room, the one who still talked to her friends because he was charming, and the world never tires of charming. I took a breath and walked back into the living room where she was knee-deep in boxes from brand collabs, cutting open tissue paper and squealing to herself about a rhinestone clutch that was so Miami it's illegal. Tiffany lives in a hurricane of packages. Companies send her things because she knows how to tilt her chin and use a window as a softbox and make average look aspirational. Our apartment in Orlando is small and tidy when it's just me, and a tornado path when she's prepping content. I love her when she's like that because I like watching someone do anything at full speed. But the pink guest list was still on my retinas. "Babe," I said, keeping my voice even, "why is Jason on your bachelorette list?" She didn't look up. "Because he's friends with everyone and he knows Miami," she said, like we were talking about who was bringing hummus. Then she glanced at me and saw my face, her shoulders squared. "You're not going to make this a thing?" "It is a thing to me," I said, and I felt the hard edge in my voice, the one I try not to use with anyone who isn't a treadmill that's about to throw a senior citizen onto the floor. It's my fiancé's bachelorette weekend, and her ex-boyfriend is special assist. What am I supposed to feel about that? She rolled her eyes and aimed a pair of sparkly sunglasses at me. "You're supposed to feel secure. He's friends with Kels and Maddie. He knows a promoter and can get us into the good places. He's a logistics guy for fun. It's not a big deal." "It's a big deal to me," I said. "I'm not saying you can't go. I'm saying I don't like him there." "Andrew," she said my name like she was making me sit. "Do not be a control freak. It's just a party. It's a vibe. It's content. You want me to have content, right? Remember the brand that said they might bump me to a paid partner if I deliver a second quarter over 10%? This is that." "My boundary isn't content," I said. "It's our relationship." She smirked without humor. "Your boundary is jealousy wearing a suit." We stared at each other over a pile of tissue paper and rhinestones. Somewhere in the building, somebody's kid hit a high note in a video game. I felt that little roller coaster drop again. I could hear my own breath. I could hear my own voice sounding like a math teacher. "Just don't put any of this on the joint card, okay? We'll do it fair. I'll pay for the rehearsal dinner. I'll pay my stuff. You can do your weekend with your money and your brand credits." "Wow," she said, actually leaning back. "Nickel and diming your bride. Super hot." "It's not nickel and diming. It's called having a budget." She pulled out her phone with a theatrical sigh, flipped to the camera, and held it up to her face. "PSA," she said to her front-facing lens. "Life is way too short to listen to jealous men who want to manage your happiness like it's a spreadsheet." She posted it to her story so fast I could still see myself reflected in the glass. I wasn't in it, not really, but I could feel the outline of me there, the tight-jawed fiancé who makes good money at the club and says no to fun. I didn't argue anymore that night. You don't persuade someone who thinks the rules are a suggestion with more rules. I cleaned the counters, put the knife back in the block, and went to bed with the fan on high, listening to its steady blade thrum and trying to remember the part of us that isn't a war of styles. I thought of her in the early days when she worked a receptionist job and did makeup tutorials in our old apartment with a ring light so bright it left spots in my vision. She laughed more then. We ate cereal on the floor. It felt like we were building the shape of a life together, not painting a life that happens mostly on a screen. 2 days later, Miami money tried to leave our account like a tide. The bank did what it does when it hates what we're doing and blinked an alert at me. I can still see the push notification, large purchase attempt, 2400, Fontaine, South Beach. I was in the office at the gym, the one with the bad fluorescent light I was always promising to replace. I don't usually curse in that office. I did then. It hung in the air like something you had to step around. I called her, and it went to voicemail. Then the three dots that mean someone is typing showed up in our text, and her message came in like a performed line. Didn't want to bother you, girls are paying me back. Jason got us a deal, and I put the deposit down to save the suite. It will be fine by Friday, babe. I stared at it. Then I opened the bank app and hit block. It was not elegant, it was not romantic, it was the opposite of romantic. It felt like turning a valve on a line that keeps bursting, like closing a door in a house where the AC leaks out into August. I typed back, "Live short, but on your own account." My phone rang almost immediately. "You did not," she said. The background was airport chaos, the chorus of rolling suitcases, a baby, a gate agent with a cheerful voice saying something about boarding groups. "I did," I said. "I told you not to put it on a joint card." "I'm at the airport." She had that sharp note she gets when she thinks she's in the right and needs the room to know it. "Do you even understand the position you put me in?" "Yes," I said. "It's called adulthood. When you book a suite with the ex-boyfriend who knows a promoter and you put it on your fiancé's card, sometimes your fiancé turns off the faucet." "You're ruining my weekend." "No. I'm balancing our account. I'm not the jerk. I'm the accountant of reality." "You are unbelievable," she said. "You could have talked to me." "I did," I said. "The other day when you called me a control freak and posted your story about jealous men, remember? We were in the same room." Silence on the other end, then muffled, "We good?" to a friend, then back to me. "This is going to get handled. Don't worry your numbers, head. I'll use my card." Then she hung up before I could say anything else, which was fine. I didn't have anything else that would change what had already happened. She did use her card. The charge went through on hers, and the bank sent me a different kind of alert, the kind that comes with a long list of tiny charges that multiply like rabbits. Lunch on Collins, Uber to a club, bottle service somewhere with a one-word name that could have been a perfume or a car. I kept my phone face down on my desk, because if I let the notifications pour over me, I'd drown. People filtered in and out of my office asking about towels and schedules, and a man complained that his locker was sticking. I nodded and fixed and smiled and went through the small motions of being needed. That night I stayed off Instagram on purpose. Avoidance isn't always wisdom, but it's a decent mood stabilizer when your life is an open window and someone else is throwing glitter out of it. I lasted until about 11. Then I tapped. The first story was a shot of the hotel room in the mirror, girls in matching satin robes, a skyline in the window. The second was the suite door opening to a hallway and a familiar voice off camera saying, "Ladies, Miami welcomes you." You couldn't see his face, but I knew the cadence. He always made an entrance like a minor character in a show who might become a major character if the show gets picked up for season 2. The third was a boomerang of a sparkler in a bottle, then a quick pan across a table where his hand touched her elbow in a way that wasn't nothing. I screenshot. That's the thing with evidence. You can say it makes you petty, you can say it makes you a historian. Both can be true. I didn't send anything to her. She was living her life in clips and captions, and I wasn't going to try to out-caption her. I put my phone down, got a glass of water, and stared at the dark space where the pool looked like a slab of night. I thought about my mom, who used to say, "You don't have to fight every battle that wants to be fought. Choose the ones you want to live with." The next morning, I opened Find My without meaning to. Have it. The little dot winked at me from Ocean Drive. I watched it move like a smug firefly from the hotel to a cafe and back to the hotel, then off to a beach club with oversized daybeds and a soundtrack that sounded like money. At noon, a bank text I hadn't expected came through. Not the joint account, a line of credit inquiry with my name on it. I stared. I called the number. After 3 rounds of menus and a very nice woman named Cynthia, I learned that an application had been started with my details but stalled. It wasn't approved. It wasn't denied. It was just attempted. I don't believe in fate. I believe in behavior. Behavior has a curve to it. If you plot enough points, you can see where it's headed. I took a screenshot of the inquiry notice and sent it to her with a simple question, "Did you start this?" She wrote back an hour later, "No idea what that is. Jason said we might get a group tab and then they comp most of it. Stop being paranoid." I stared at that text and said out loud to an empty room, "Of course he did." Then the anger left me like a temperature dropping after a storm. When the anger goes, you can see a lot more. I saw that I was awake inside a story I didn't want to be the ending of. I saw a kitchen table where a person I loved turned me into an obstacle for content. I saw how many small, no big deals can stack and become a wall you can't see over. She came home on Monday. No flowers, no apology. A bag of merch and a tan and a complicated smile that tried out 2 or 3 expressions before settling on bright. The Florida sun makes her eyes even lighter, and I had to look at her neck instead. There was a faint pale band where her ring had been. I stared at it before I could stop myself. "I took it off at the pool," she said, pulling it out of the little velvet travel box she used for jewelry. She slid it on and held up her hand like a bride in a magazine. "There. Happy?" "I'm not a ring inspector," I said. "I'm your fiancé." "That's a weird job title to say with a scowl." "Tell me about your trip," I said. My voice sounded like a hotel hallway. Every sound echoed. "It was fun," she said. "We did the beach club thing. We got into Sky. We shot some content. Oh, and I had breakfast with a brand rep who happened to be in town. I got us 3 outfits for the honeymoon, comped." She made a little drum roll on the counter with her fingers, waiting for applause. "Did you have breakfast with Jason too?" I asked. She did that thing where she laughs before she answers so the laugh can be part of the answer. "We all had breakfast, babe. It wasn't like that." "Like what?" "Like you think. He was just helping. He set up the suite and the table because he knows literally every person in that city who has a clipboard and a headset. It saved us money." "You tried to open a line of credit in my name." "What?" She drew her head back like someone had thrown water at her. "I did not." "An application was attempted with my information while you were in Miami." I held up my phone. "I'm not guessing. I got the alert." "I don't even know how to do that," she said. "Why would I do that?" "Because you ran out of runway and needed more money to keep the plane in the air." "I didn't," she said, and she said it fast and hard and clear like a person telling the truth. The problem is, people who lie for a living on the internet learn how to make truths sound staged and lies sound lived in. "Why are you trying to make this ugly?" "I'm not," I said. "I'm trying to make it accurate." We stood there, 2 people deep in a disagreement about what had happened in front of the whole world. And yet it still felt private, because the thing we were really arguing about didn't have a camera. It was the part where I wanted my life to be boring with someone I trusted, and she wanted her life to be never boring with someone who would hold the ring light. "Say you believe me," she said finally. "Say you trust me. If you can't say that, why are we getting married?" "Because love and trust aren't the same muscle," I said quietly. "I can love you and not trust you. I can love you and still think my name is a resource to you when the music gets loud." "That's disgusting," she said. "You're making me sound like a user. You know what? I'm done with this. If you're going to be like this every time I breathe, call the venue and cancel. I'm not going to be policed in my own life." "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay, what?" "Okay, I'll call the venue." "You're being dramatic." "I'm being exact." I walked to the drawer where we keep the maintenance stuff of like spare keys, stamps, takeout menus, and took out the binder with vendor contracts and deposit receipts. I set it on the table. I opened it. "Sit," I said. Not because I own her, but because I needed her to understand what was about to happen. Existed in paperwork, not in feelings. "This is insane," she said. But she sat. I made the calls. The venue kept half. The photographer kept a third. The DJ graciously said he'd refund everything but not book us again. I called my parents and my sister and said, "The thing you don't think you'll ever have to say once you've sent out save the dates. We're not doing it." Then I called her parents and got her mother's soft, disappointed sigh and her father's silence, which I think he thought was punishment but felt like relief. When I hung up the last call, I could feel my pulse in my thumbs. She had been very quiet through all of it, hands clasped, staring at a spot on the table the way you stare at your hands when someone is telling you a thing you don't want to be responsible for. When I set the phone down, she said, "You just blew up our life because you saw a name in a chat and a charge on a card." "No," I said. "I blew up the wedding because I kept seeing a version of you who is always on and never sorry, and because I told you a boundary and you put that boundary on your story as a punchline." She winced. "That was petty," she said, so quiet I almost didn't hear it.
Yeah.
"I can fix it," she said. "I can post a video that explains."
No.
"Why not?" "Because I'm not a brand crisis," I said. "I'm a person who wants to be boring on a Tuesday with my wife." "I could do boring," she said. "You could do boring for 48 hours, I said. Then something shiny would wave at you." She looked at me for a long time. Then she stood, walked to the bedroom, and came back with the ring box. She set it on the binder. "I'll mail it," she said, "when I can do it without throwing up." You don't have to throw up, I said. You just have to be honest. She nodded once. Then she picked up her phone and, out of habit, lifted it into the air for good light. She caught herself, lowered it, and laughed a little broken laugh. I wanted Miami so bad, she said. I wanted it to be a movie. It was, I said, just not one I want to be in. She moved out within the week, which was both fast and slow. Fast because she had practice packing for trips. Slow because our life had 1,000 hooks in the wall you don't see until you tug and something swings. I took the month's rent and utilities and paid them because I wasn't going to set fire to the part of the house we lived in together. She took the couch because it photographed better than my old one. I took the coffee table because I built it and it's mine. It's funny the way the practical details draw the shape of grief. You need a place to put your feet of grief. You need a place to put your feet. You need a place to set your glass. Work didn't change at first, except for the way I said no to every influencer collaboration request that came through the club. We won't trade day passes for content, I told the team. We'll trade day passes for money or volunteer hours for the youth league. That was my version of flipping a switch. I stopped treating attention as currency in any room I could control. People sent me her posts even when I didn't ask to see them. That's the dark magic of living in a town small enough to run into your old life at Publix. A friend texted me a clip of her doing a get ready with me about leaving a controlling relationship. Another sent a screenshot of Jason's story from a charity gala, him in a tux, her at his elbow, the caption, something about full circle. I muted without commenting. You can fight a war on someone else's timeline, or you can repair the parts of your house that are yours. I picked the latter. Money got simpler when it was just me. It turns out that living inside your means feels like sleeping with both hands under the pillow. I took extra shifts, then I took a weekend course on small business management at the community college, the kind where they teach you how to separate accounts and how to not get crushed by your own enthusiasm. I stopped waking up at 2 a.m. with a tight chest. I started waking up at 6 with a quiet brain and a body that wanted coffee. 3 months later, she asked to meet. Public place, she wrote. I picked a spot in Winter Park where the servers bring you water like it's a reflex and the light makes everyone look about 5% better than average. She came in wearing a dress I've never seen with a smile I had. We sat. We ordered nothing. We looked at each other like two people who both know a language the other can't read anymore. I wanted to say I'm sorry, she said, not the content kind, the actual kind. Okay, I said. I told a story about you, she said, to people who will never meet you. And it wasn't the story. It was a version that made me not the problem. I'm sorry. I'm trying to learn to be a person before I'm a page. That's a good order, I said. She fidgeted with the napkin and shot me a look from under her lashes that used to mean stay. We were a good idea, she said. We were, I said, and then the idea got hungry. She laughed softly. It did, didn't it? I hope you find boring Tuesday, I said. It's pretty great. You too, she said. You always wanted that. It's part of why I loved you. You made Tuesdays feel like a place. I walked back to my car with the feeling you get when you put down a box you didn't realize you were still carrying. It didn't make the box disappear. It just made my hands free. I kept going. That's not dramatic. That's the point. I kept showing up to the gym and fixing the things that needed fixing and teaching a teenager how to spot without bending his back like a question mark. I kept sending my part of the money to the landlord before the first. I kept buying groceries like a person who eats food. He cooks. Months stacked. Then a year did. When my friends asked, I told them the truth, the same way every time so it wouldn't become a performance. We were different shapes of people. I asked for a boundary. She put that boundary on the internet as a punchline. I canceled the wedding and built a different life. They either understood or they didn't. Understanding isn't a ticket I collect anymore. Sometimes I still see a South Beach story in my head when my bank app pings. It's a ghost. Ghosts exist because we feed them. You stop feeding them and they get quiet. On a shelf in my living room is a small photo from when we were good, the two of us at Lake Eola with a bag of bread for the swans we weren't supposed to feed. It doesn't break me. It's just a proof that we were real and we weren't built for all seasons. Last month, I took a long, slow walk around Lake Baldwin at dusk and watched a dad chase a kid with a kite that refused to fly. The dad laughed anyway. The kid screamed like the sky was his. I stood there and thought, this is the thing. Not the sweet, not the sparkler in a bottle, not the airport argument that will get 15,000 views. The thing is wanting your life to stay upright and making the boring choices that keep it that way. If you're waiting for some revenge epilogue, there's not one. No public takedown, no viral thread about bachelorettes from hell. All I've got is a paycheck that matches the work I do and a calendar full of Tuesdays that feel like mine. Also a sentence I tell myself when I am tempted to confuse love with math: love is not a line of credit. When it ends, it doesn't mean you defaulted. It means the terms changed and you stopped pretending the numbers add up when they don't. Would you have canceled the wedding over a guest list and a suite charge, or would you have tried to patch it and risk resenting her for years? At what point does "it's just a party" turn into "this is who I am"? And what do you do when that person doesn't fit the life you promised each other? If this story felt familiar, or it made the numbers of your own life come into focus, like and subscribe for more first-person stories every week.